Hey, what's up everyone? Josh here and welcome to another video. Today we're gonna have some fun and I'm gonna show you how I get the most out of my NAM files for guitar stuff using a program called Axiom from Blue Cat Audio. Now, NAM files are an inevitable part of our guitar world future, not just with guitar, but bass too, and pedals and other things that have been captured using this NAM format. It's really amazing stuff with the ease of access to all of it, most of it being downright free to get, and all of these companies that are introducing ways for us to use them and plug and play them into our productions. It's no wonder they're so popular. So learning how to get the most out of them is going to only benefit you as a guitar player and maybe studio engineer, whatever application you're using these in. I have a three-part video for you today. The first part of the video, I'm gonna show you how I build my NAM workstation in Axiom to get the most out of it using plugins, effects, and things like that. The second part of the video, I'll demo a couple of sounds I've come up with just to show you what I'm getting at here, or to kind of show you the picture I'm looking to paint with using this stuff. And then the third part of the video, I'll discuss the pros and cons of using Axiom for this purpose. Let's dive right into it. Real quick, before we get too far into the video, folks, I want you to know that this is not a sponsored video or anything like that. I'm not affiliated with any company or product or anything of the sort. Anything you see on this video is something that I've purchased on my own or gotten on my own because, like you, I'm passionate about the Wild West world of music plugins, software, and tools that we get to use. And I'm very thankful that I get to use YouTube as a platform to share what I like to do with that stuff. With that said, if you want to support the channel, drop a like on the video. It's easy to do, if you like it, of course. If you don't, well, hey, I get it. And if you want to leave a comment, let me know your thoughts. I'd love to engage with you and foster a discussion about all this stuff. That's what it's all about. So without further blabbering, let's get into it. All right, everyone, welcome to the second part of our video here, where I'm going to give you kind of a crash course in building your NAM workstation in Axiom. So if you already own Axiom, you could follow along with this and build your own workstation. Or if you're on the fence about trying or buying Axiom because you're concerned about its NAM capabilities, we're going to alleviate those concerns right here. So let's dive into it. You'll notice when you first open Axiom that you're greeted with a whole lot of nothing. But we're gonna fix that. First thing I recommend you do is turn on the multi-core engine up here to help that CPU out. Then make sure that your amp section right in the middle here is turned off on tone A and tone B, because we're gonna use both of them. Now you could experiment with the dynamics on offer here in this section, but for today's demonstration, we're gonna leave that alone. Now we gotta figure out how we're gonna get our NAMs into this thing. Well, thanks to Axiom's brilliant support of third-party plugins, VSTs, and you name it, you can have it in here, right? We're gonna take advantage of that. So you click this little cross, load VST3, and I'm actually gonna load in here the Neural Amp Modeler Snapshot player, the OG one from their website that you can get for free. I'm gonna immediately load another instance of it because I'm gonna use the first one I put in there for my NAM pedal captures I like, and then I'm gonna use the second one for the actual amp profiles that I like. Third thing I'm gonna load in here is my favorite impulse response rack from Audio Assault, and we'll just leave that on standby for right now. You could load IRs into Axiom by using their built-in EQ here, hitting the little squiggly line and then loading an IR right there. That's up to you, but I like the one from Audio Assault, so that's the one I'm gonna use. All right, so you click this and you can rename these because I want it to be easy to see. So click in the name box, go down to rename, and then you can name these so they're easier on the eyes. And why wouldn't you do that? This is a custom thing, man. We want to make it as custom as possible and as easy to use as possible. Then you can go here to these three lines, hit save as, call it whatever you want, and then now you have like a preset for this strip here. So if you go to tone B, all I have to do is click this, load that in, and boom, there it is. I'm all set for both sides. So now we have kind of a skeleton signal chain going here. Now let's talk about putting things in it. So first things first, for the pedal, you just click this little file button here. You tell the player where your NAMs live, and for me, they're on my desktop. Go to this little pedal folder I have. We're gonna use the JHS Bonsai profile pack, which is a really awesome pack. And we're gonna use the TS9 for now, okay? Cool thing about the Snapshot player from Neural Amp Modeler is when you click this, you get access to the full folder that you found your tone in. So you don't have to go looking for it and drag it in, or you don't have to make a new folder over here and then drag it in. It makes it nice and easy, okay? That's cool. Next, let's talk about amps. Same thing, click the file, go to my NAM section, and you'll see this kind of goes quickly as you start to get it down. let's use the Friedman SS100, a really awesome amp, and this pack is filled with really great profiles. So now we got that in there. For my IRs, let's say I want to use something from the yellow IR pack from Drums and Tones, one of my favorite IR companies, and this is their take on like an orange style app. So I can load that in here, and I have my high low pass filter controls and some different things to do that with. Really great. Okay, so now I'm in business for my guitar tone, but let's take it a step further. Let's talk about using the same technique I showed you with loading this stuff in. I've got an input strip that I use here that I can load in, and boom, got all this great utility on the front end. The reason I'm putting this all over here instead of in the pre-effect slots is because I want what's in here to affect both tones at once, okay? So starting with the re-guitar plugin, here I have access to this really awesome pickup profile universe here. Think of it like impulse responses for your guitar. We did a full video on this, and you can change it all over the place and do some really cool stuff. Single coil stuff, you name it, it can do it, and it starts to get really cool as you continue to experiment with it. That's a built-in utility unique to Axiom, so already we have some tonal options. Turn that off for now. Next, I use the noise gate from Blue Cat. I have it on the preset G noise gate, and then I just use the threshold control to my liking. Again, so I can manipulate both at once. I can have one central place for it. Next, I use the micro EQ on the front just to get a little bit of EQ shaping on the front end if I want to take a little bass out, add a little more treble, whatever I want to do there. That's a really useful tool. And then finally, I have the pitch shifter here from Blue Cat that I'm using like a transposer. I have it 2 semitones right now, just so I can switch basically between E and D, you know, when I want to. So that is pretty cool. Usually I'll end up using only the gate unless I want to start using more of this, but we have options, right? You got your tuner right here, so that's cool. Moving on to the master bus, same thing. I've got a preloaded output or master bus strip here that I've got some really fun stuff on, okay? So first I have just a basic stereo delay, and well, I guess it's anything but basic. To me, it's a basic stereo delay, but there's a lot going on here that is happening behind the scenes. This is late replies from Blue Cat Audio. They're really powerful delay and reverb module that is 10 times smarter than me even. Not that that's a high bar, but I promise you it is. It's really cool. Then I have a reverb here. I'm just using this preset called Guitar Solo Hall. And by the way, look at all these presets in here just for the reverb thing in Blue Cat. Like, crazy stuff. They always load these things up with tons of presets and starting points for you to be inspired by. I use the compressor from Blue Cat, and you'll notice I have some pretty aggressive settings there because I really like to compress the crap out of my guitars if I'm gonna compress them. And then finally, I have a third-party plugin here from Brainworks called Shred Spread. This is a really neat plugin, and you can use it to widen your guitar sound, and I have it just at standard right here, and I'm not really using this for widening, but what's cool is this shred option here is kind of a nice all-around EQ for guitar, and I'll show you what it does in a bit. But the big thing to know here is this is a third-party plugin, again, that I'm using in my signal chain, right? So that's where Axiom really starts to let us do this cool Frankenstein type stuff. So there you have it. You have yourself a nice workstation here with effects and modules, and it can be customized, switched out, whatever you want to do. It's all right here ready for you. And if you want to save this whole thing as a preset, you just click here, hit save as, and you can call it whatever you want, save it, and then you can load it right up again so it comes up all for you. It's not something you have to do every time and build this crazy thing. So that's what Axiom lets you do. It makes things nice and convenient once you get this built. Let's talk about some sounds now that we have this thing going. All right, everyone, welcome to the next part of our video here where I'm going to show you a few tones I've created using the techniques I just showed you. Here's the first one. Yeah, really nice rock and roll type tone. It's just super crunchy and, in my opinion, really nice and fat. You can do a lot of stuff with it. And one of the things you'll notice is that for this, the pedal one is not on. That's because these NAMM profiles are pretty driven to begin with. The one you're hearing on the left is the Friedman SS100, and I'll have a link to that in the description, don't worry. And then this one on the right is the JMP Lead Overdrive 2. So two really awesome amps going here. And for the IR on the right, I'm using one from the Mendel cab from Drums and Tones, and then on the left, I'm using one from the yellow cab pack from Drums and Tones as well. So that one is really, really fun. Now, as far as utility goes, you'll notice that I'm using the re-guitar plugin to get this classic Bucker sound. So without it, we have this. And then with it, we have this subtle difference. You know, not earth-shattering, but enough to where we can tell there is a little bit of tonal difference, especially when we start getting it into the mix and stuff. You could also go up here to the single coil, get like a P90 going. Just really good stuff. Or if you want to do something a little more Fendery. You know, really, really cool there. So again, we're getting options right off the bat with the re-guitar, and I like to use that for this one. For the noise gate, you'll notice I have it a little higher than maybe standard would be, and that's because I really like to do a lot of that syncopated, a lot of that snappy kind of stuff with that kind of tone, especially as you lower the gain more and more, you kind of get down into that, where you can even do some finger style. Pretty cool. So there's your noise gate, and you could really use that to help your dynamics. Micro EQ, I'm not using that on this one. The transposer, if we want to turn it on, I've got it down to 2 semitones here, and we could, play our Alice Cooper if we want. You can have all kinds of fun with that, but for now we'll leave it off. On the back end, I've got the compressor going right now, and I really like to compress my guitars, as you know, and without it we have this, but with it back on, pretty cool. If I want to use my reverb and delay, I can just turn those on, and now I can start shredding. Pretty cool stuff, right? And it sounds really nice. It kind of totally changes the whole dynamic of the thing, and Axiom lets us do that. Or if you just want to use the reverb for a little extra body, you could do that. Also, I have on here the BX Shred Spread, which we kind of mentioned earlier, but let's talk about what it actually does. So without it, we have this. And then when we turn it on, I'll show you, I've got the setting here just at 30%, and this is the only control I'm using in it. It just gives a little fatness, a little post EQ that I just love, and it's just an on and off switch for me, man, and it's part of my signal chain as a third-party plugin thanks to Axiom. So I can turn that on, and I could go really crazy and get everything going. If I really wanted to, and have a massive sound if I was like playing live or something. So there's that. Let's talk about real quick driving these. So you could turn the pedals on both of these, and I've got the JHS TS9 loaded in here, and you could really take it to the next level with your saturation. Check this out. I mean, that is just really getting serious with the drive. So that's one tone, and I'll show you a couple more here, but that's kind of the idea, is all of this cool utility you can get by not only combining your NAMs to get monstrous sounds, but all of the effects and utilities as well. Moving on, I have another one here, and this one's using the Friedman on the left, but a XXX on the right. So this is really good for that really more, modern metal rock type stuff. Check this out. Really, really nice. Obviously, it's a little more metal sounding. We're driving everything pretty good here. I've got both drive pedals on. I'm using the TS9 again. And on the right side, the only difference is I'm using the XXX. And I really like how you can rake those chords. Like, check out this low A right here. Really nice and fat, but still has a lot of clarity on the top end. So let's say for this one, I wanted to use the shred spread and get a little post EQ on it. It can make it sound like this. And you could let that ring out forever and it would sound cool. Another one I like to use for this is just the reverb, so I can kind of get this, ambience to it, if you will, like my song Crystal Skies used this kind of thing. So that sounds pretty good with just the reverb on there, and of course the options are limitless. On this one, I'm only using the gate on the front end, but what you could do, like with the micro EQ, is let's say I want to boost the bass a little bit. All I gotta do is crank this up a touch, and now I've got... And you'll notice that the effect isn't monumental, but it is there and it's subtle and it just adds layers to our tone, right? So that's pretty cool. So that one again is using the XXX for a little more modern metal sound. Let's go to the next one now. Now this one is really fun, and I call it Laney's Nightmare, because on the left side we're using a Laney Ironheart Studio profile here, driven with a pedal, so it's going to be pretty beefy. And then on the right, we have the Driftwood Purple Nightmare profile. So this is kind of a Freak Kitchen inspired tone that's really chunky and you could just really dig into it. Check this out. Really fun, and it might not be everybody's cup of tea because it is a little darker, it is a little more beefy than maybe some of the other things, but I really love to use tones like this to blend with the other ones, and I find it to be quite nice, especially when you're doing that low end stuff, Pretty cool. This one I'm using on the back end, something a little different. I'm using the micro EQ back here to control this a little bit. So you'll notice I've got a 20% cut to the bass. If I change it back, this is what we get back to. And if I cut it back to about where I had it. So we can really use that to kind of process the bass on the back end, or kind of tame that low end if we need to, or if we want to crank it up, we can. Also, you'll notice I am boosting the treble a little bit. With everything at center, this is what we have. There it is. And I noticed that when I play normal registers, like for E standard and stuff, that this works. But once I start getting down here, it gets a little unruly, a little beefy, so that's why I like to use this micro EQ to give it a little bit of help on the back end. You could use the shred spread on this one too. And that opens it up a little bit, especially if you want to do some snarly stuff. I could get stuck there all day, man. You just get like glued to that 0-1 rhythm. But anyway, there's that. You could turn the reverb on and get a really, really fat tone out of this. So there's all kinds of options available to you there. So anyway, there you have it. Those are 3 tones to kind of just show you what I like to do with some higher gain stuff and rock and metal stuff. Of course, you could use the clean profiles and create some heavenly cleans with this, I have no doubt. But that's kind of what the picture I was trying to paint with all of this today. So I hope you dug those, and stick around for my final thoughts on this. All right, everyone, thanks for hanging out with me today as we checked out how to get the most out of your NAMM files using Axiom from Blue Cat Audio. Let's talk about some pros and cons, okay? The con we'll get out of the way because there's really only one, and that is that Axiom is not free. You will need to own it if you want to do what you saw us do here today, or to be able to do all the things you saw. If you're purely looking at this from a perspective of trying to play your NAMM files and that's it, then I could understand why Axiom might not be first on your list for that reason. There are other options out there that are even free that you can do some of the stuff that we did today. Not all of it, but some of it. I own them myself, I know what they're capable of, and they're all right. But when you consider what Axiom does have to offer just beyond this, the price point starts to make a lot of sense. And you can obviously try Blue Cat's Axiom for yourself. Just go to their website and try a trial, see what you think. Let's get to the pros now. The first major pro here that can't be beat is Axiom's ability to support and use third-party VSTs. No other program that I'm aware of, guitar plugin program I'm aware of, allows you to put third-party VSTs into your signal chain and use them and get the tone of your dreams. I really love the idea of it being like a mad scientist lab where it's kind of a Frankenstein thing where I'm just piecing stuff together and seeing what fits and what I like and what I don't like. That makes it fun. It makes me feel like I'm not limited by Axiom, I'm limited by myself, right? The second thing to consider is all of the built-in utilities like re-guitar to change your pickup profile, and the late replies with all of its crazy reverb and modulation effects and delay and everything you could possibly think of, right? Using that in tandem with your NAMM files means options, dynamics, and lots of fun. So that's the second pro. The third pro on this is the ability to blend those NAMMs seamlessly like we did. That was pretty cool. It makes it nice and easy if you follow the technique that I showed you. And then finally, the last pro that I love is being able to have that master bus and affect everything at once seamlessly, nice and easy, where I feel like I'm in the studio environment. It's almost like having a DAW for your guitar stuff with everything that you can do and tweak. I'm sorry if you hear the train in the background. We live in Montana, that's just how it works. But all in all, if you have Axiom, here's how you do your NAMM files in it. We can now join the fun club. And if you're looking at getting Axiom for yourself, then this is another cool option or a way to get even more out of it, all right? So that's all I've got for you guys today. We'll see you on the next video.